I screwed them out of their company and they screwed me out of my compensation. I was hired by a marketing company many years ago during the deregulation of the phone industry. Many tiny long-distance businesses appeared, all vying for a piece of the action in the Wild West. They were all eventually acquired by the larger fish. However, at the time, they were all hiring highly compensated hired gun marketing companies to secure contracts so they could lock people in. I was hired by a marketing organization that promoted New Age capitalism and required us to practice yoga and breathing techniques while ringing a bell and giving us positive affirmations about how many contracts we would all sell and how much money we would all make. The position paid 100% commission, but since I've always been strong at sales, I looked at the pay scale and saw that it was exponential, which was probably done to encourage individuals to put in a lot of effort in exchange for improbable rewards. We had complete control over how many or how few hours we worked, and our income was determined by your weekly sales figures. I made the decision to give it a go for a week, seeing how much I could actually make, and then decide if I could live with the tasteless vegan snacks and obligatory optional yoga class. I pushed myself as hard as I could throughout the following week. I worked 14 or more hour days every day for 7 days in a row, using every trick and tactic I had learned from doing sales to get as many contracts as I could. I reasoned that by learning my maximum income, I could make an informed decision about whether or not to stay. I had completely outdone everyone else by the conclusion of the week. I had actually received more contracts than any of them had seen in a month, not merely more than they had ever seen in a week. The exponential scale helped me realize that I was earning over $10,000 each week, completely absurd amounts of money. They had never imagined that someone could really reach those kinds of stats. I expected a substantial pay when I came in the following week, but I only received approximately 5% of what I had anticipated. They informed me that several of my contracts had errors in them and gave me permission to correct them over the course of the following few weeks before submitting them one at a time. These issues included things like a little crooked dash in someone's phone number or an apostrophe that wasn't quite evident. I was going to be screwed by them. Frank, the office manager for the company, called me that evening and asked to get together for a drink. I nodded, curious. Frank informed me after a few beers that the company's owners were terrified I would bankrupt them. He claimed that after laying down all of my contracts on the office floor, they crawled over them looking through each one to see if I was pulling off any frauds. They decided they had no choice but to screw me over after realizing that all of my contracts were legitimate. At that time, Frank said he realized they would screw him too if they screwed me, and furthermore, he was sick of doing yoga. He asked whether I would be interested in partnering with him and taking on his superiors. I asked him how he thought we could compete. Even though I thought it sounded interesting, Frank disclosed that it had come to his attention that they did not, in fact, possess the contract for our city. Or a different business which was contracted to market the service in a completely other city. They were working as independent contractors because the individual who did have the contract was not actively using it. They were poaching here. We prepared a proposal and informed Joe, the person holding the actual contract, about the intruders. We decided to divide the money as follows. We would take the upfront payment for each contract and he would receive the remaining funds later. Joe got in touch with the phone company and threatened the poachers with a large lawsuit if they didn't stop because it was a good deal for everyone. Frank and I casually stepped into our former employer's offices a week later. All of the yoga mats and most of the furniture had been removed, leaving only a file box with everyone's final pay envelopes, a table, and a few filing cabinets. After I pretended to count my money to make sure it was all there, the husband and wife proprietors angrily informed Frank and me that they had to use credit card cash advances to get this money, and they asked me if I felt bad for ruining their lives. I responded, nope, grinned, and turned to go. Throughout the year, our marketing company brought in a lot of money for us, but when the company was acquired by Sprint, the gravy train came to an end.